Fine. All righty, welcome guys. We are going to go over chapters 15 and 16, two of my favorite chapters in this book, the law of victory and the law of momentum. So I'm super excited to chat through this. So if you have any favorite things right off the bat, feel free to pop them in the chat. So this is perfect too, because my dad would be a perfect example of someone who lives by the law of victory. Like that's his word even. I would say that would be his theme song is victory, both in spiritual terms and just like as a coach, as a leader, like that was his big overarching goal. He would always say, guys, are you shouting the victory or are you just shouting? So anyways, I thought that was applicable. It reminded me of him when I was reading through it. I love some of the quotes in this chapter. It talks about how victorious leaders have one thing in common, and that is that they share an unwillingness to accept defeat. And I think it's such a mental thing, right? Because the leader that has victory as their goal, they're not going to be like thrown off the trail or whatever, derailed because of a setback or whatever. Like they're onward and upward, just continuing to move forward, because it says the alternative to winning is totally unacceptable to them. And so it just means that they have to pivot and figure out a way around the obstacle or a path through. So, and then it gave some examples of people who had practiced the law of victory throughout their lives, which is cool. I love when they bring in historical figures. This is a famous quote from Winston Churchill, but it says, victory at all costs, victory in spite of all terror, victory however long and hard the road may be, for without victory, there is no survival. Okay, if you look on page 183 in the book, it talks about how the best leaders feel compelled to rise to a challenge and will do everything in their power to achieve victory for their people. In their view, leadership is responsible, losing is unacceptable, passion is unquenchable, creativity is essential, quitting is unthinkable, commitment is unquestionable, victory is inevitable. If you don't take anything else from this chapter, like write that down on a note card. Make that your affirmations. I feel like the older I get, the more I understand why my mom found such interest in reading the dictionary when she was homeschooling us, because the older I get, the more I'm like, words are so cool. They impact us ginormously. Like obviously God's word is powerful, right? But even just English or whatever language in general, vernacular, like it pierces our minds, our body, soul, spirit, right? It has an impact on us, and it has the ability to create, like our body can release emotions or release hormones, based on the emotions that words trigger, either our own words, which are maybe verbalized thoughts, or other people's words. And so the impact of words is so essential. And I love that little paragraph. And then he gives 3 components to victory. And it talks about like a sports team, a business, an army, a nonprofit organization. Victory is possible as long as you have 3 components that contribute to a team's dedication to victory. Number 1, the unity of vision, which that is huge, right? If we plexify this, having unity on our teams and where we're all rowing in the same direction is huge. And this totally ties into the law of momentum, because if we have people all rowing in the same direction toward a common goal, that's what creates momentum. Number 2 is diversity of skills. So every organization requires diverse talents to succeed. And I think that's where the self-awareness piece comes in. Like as we understand ourselves better and are able to understand our teammates better, we're able to celebrate the gifts and talents that people have, and also see where there's maybe missing links or gaps that need to be filled. And then number 3 is a dedicated leader, a leader dedicated to victory and raising players to their potential. And I think that is the goal with Plexus, is to help people maximize their potential, whether that's in a health situation or in business, and even just growing personally, because this business is very much directly related to our own personal growth, because as we grow personally, our businesses grow, right? And some people come in with a lot of that already learned, others of us don't. And so we get to learn as we go with our businesses. I love the applying section on page 190, if you want to turn there. Let me see here. Melody said this chapter is so inspiring. Linda says, I love that quitting is never an option if you're operating in the law of victory. I love the story of Winston Churchill and his leadership. Yeah. I was listening to a training by Christina Williams the other day, and she said that when she was stuck below emerald point, she decided she was like a chihuahua. She was going to keep barking at the door until she grew her team, and the end was diamond. I love that picture of consistency. Our team is going over the slight edge tonight, and the chapter we are on is talking about this topic too. There's no merit in the fact that that the hare won the race. It's not because he was slow. It's not because he was slow, but because he was steady. The steadiness or consistency is absolutely key. Yeah, and I think people miss that. Like, I think it's maybe more human nature, or more of us are wired towards, like, life gets crazy. So the first thing that shifts off the plate is Plexus business. And so then they end up coming in for short, intense bursts, which lead to burnout. and then it's all too easy for people to just hate their business and have all these negative emotions and feelings surrounding their business. And so then it's like this huge ball of procrastination, and I don't want to go there. Instead of working consistently, even in busy seasons, even if you have to just have the car moving super duper slowly and do the 1-1-1, right? One post, one reach out, one follow up, right? That's better than parking the car, because just the law of inertia, whatever. Like if a object is in motion, it's easier to keep it in motion versus stopping it completely and then having to create that inertia from zero, right? So anyways, I totally agree with the consistency piece. And this business is insanely simple, but it can also be really hard, especially for people that struggle with consistency in their life in other areas. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to stay in that space. Obviously, learning to be consistent is a choice, and it's something that we can take 100% ownership of and change the trajectory of whatever it is, whether it's getting up and reading our Bible, or getting up and exercising, or getting up and working our Plexus business, or working in the day somehow, So the consistency piece is what leads us to victory. And I would say a hallmark of successful people is that they're consistent, probably to a fault. But I think the beauty in this is that you don't have to necessarily consistently run at a high rate of speed and burn yourself out. It can be the consistency of the 1-1-1 in busy seasons. And that's beautiful. Sometimes that might produce even more fruit than the hustle and the desperation, right? I'm a fan of high activity consistently. But I also think I have a threshold and a wide bandwidth for that. And for me personally, like, my pace was fast paced, and I knew it, and I was willing to make the trade-offs that I needed to make in order to make that happen. And I knew that there would be rest at some point. So I don't ever encourage someone to work at such a high rate that they burn out. I would rather a slower pace and just be in it for the long game, right? In the endurance piece. So yes, the law of motion. Yeah. Okay, so if you look on the back of the chapter, it talks about the first step in practicing the law of victory is taking responsibility for the success of a team, department, and organization you lead. It must become personal. Your commitment must be higher than that of your team members. Your passion must be high, and your dedication must be unquestioned. You currently demonstrate that level of commitment. Why or why not? What do you guys have for that? I would say those of you who are on the call obviously are definitely showing that your commitment is high and your passion is high and your dedication is high. Because you're willing to be on this call when a lot of other people are not hopping on and making it a priority, or they have a conflict and they have to cut the recording, which is totally fine too. But anything coming up for you there? Or do you have, okay, Linda says there's always room for improvement, but I'm seeing growth in this area for me. Good. Yeah. Is there anything that comes to mind for improving your team's strength of unity or unity of vision? Anything that you feel like is helping to strengthen that? Yeah, I wrote down Zooms also, Melody. Weekly Zooms is really helping us. Yeah. Just gathering people. It could be in person, it could be at the coffee shop, it could be via Zoom chats and team threads. I think that also ties into culture also. How, as a leader, how can you express your dedication to victory? Anything coming up there? How can you express your dedication to victory? I wrote down keep achieving. I think that when we're personally in personal momentum, that inspires our team more than any sort of training could do. And it keeps us relevant also. Let your team know that you'll never give up and quit no matter what happens. Exactly. Yes, good. Yeah, I thought there was just some really good things in this. Does anyone want to unmute and share anything else? We might keep this a little short because I don't know about you guys, but I'm still trying to get messages sent out here at the end of the month. Is that how you're all feeling? So practical application to law of victory. We shall end the month strong and do the things that are as easy to do as not to do. I think that might be a slight edge principle. It's not hard to send the messages, but sometimes you just have to sit down and carve out the time. Okay, well, let's shift over to the law of the big Mo. Momentum is a leader's best friend. And this is one that is just super interesting. It comes and goes, and when it's there, you ride it. And so one thing that I have seen happen when momentum hits, a lot of times it's not second nature for people to lean in and to press in. It's actually like, I almost get the sense that they want to pull the reins back and be like, whoa, hang on. There's people joining my team and I don't know who they are. And they're my people's people. And how do I get to know them? How do I connect with them? This feels scary and uncomfortable. And it's almost like they can act like, maybe even unintentionally put the brakes on instead of leaning in and creating more conversations themselves so that their own personal momentum matches their team momentum, which is super cool. Because then it's like that momentum builds even bigger, right? Melody says, I like the point in this chapter about how momentum makes problems or obstacles easy to overcome. When there's not momentum, small obstacles seem bigger. Helpful perspective to have. Yeah, well, in momentum, it just covers a whole host of things, right? It can cover up some sloppy areas when there's just excitement and people are pumped and joining and helping their friends get started and all of that good stuff. So that he gives a couple breakdowns in light of creating, well, not necessarily creating, but just some basic info about momentum. So he said, number one is momentum is the great exaggerator. So just like you can see like basketball team or football team, when they have momentum, it just seems like everything's clicking into place, right? Number two, momentum makes leaders look better than they are. Yeah. And sometimes it's easy to take credit for the momentum when in reality, yes, it's somewhat dependent on the leader. But sometimes it's not. And there is, sometimes there's unicorn situations where maybe the leader isn't even tapped in, but like someone joins and totally catches the vision and taps into whatever training and information that they need that the virtual office and YouTube offers, and they roll. And it's not necessarily the leader that did anything except invite them into Plexus. And if that's all we do for somebody, I mean, that's still a win. But I would say that typically there's things that a leader does in order to create some momentum. But it is interesting just to realize that sometimes it can make people look larger than they are, And like he says, it also compounds. So he said, for many years, I have tried to add value to people. After writing 50 books and hundreds of lessons on leadership and success, I have gained a lot of momentum. Everything I do to add value to people seems to be compounded in a positive way. Often, I say that when I started my career, I wasn't as bad as people thought. Today, I'm not as good as people give me credit for. Why the difference? Momentum. So yes, and then number three is momentum helps followers perform better than they are. It says even average people can perform far above average in an organization with great momentum. And I've seen that happen also, where people just running off of sheer belief in other people's belief and the momentum that's already, team-wide momentum or company momentum. There's a lot of different things that can happen that can contribute, kind of like when the stars align, there can be multiple things firing at one time. And then he says, number four, momentum is easier to steer than to start. So it's kind of like that whole airplane analogy. I remember one of the gals on our team listened to, it wasn't Bob Heilig, it was Ray Higdon, I think. One of the two talked about the airplane analogy, especially when it comes to network marketing, and how it's kind of maybe that law of inertia or just that initial start. Sometimes, in order to get the airplane off the ground and to get that lift happening, right? Sometimes people lack creating enough conversations or taking enough action, big action within a certain period of time in order to get that airplane airborne. So then it just like keeps ground level or just kind of rolling along on the causeway or whatever it's called, at the airport, right? So we want to actually get the airplane off the ground. And I know there's been several times in my business where I have specifically plugged back in and like rebuilt the team, where, we had gotten off, maybe we were flying at Emerald and I had totally seen our trajectory being more like this than like flatlined. And so when I was Emerald, I think I was stuck, which wasn't a bad place to be stuck, but stuck around 2,000 points. And I was like, okay, we're stalling out. What is the deal? Why does it feel like momentum is completely halted? It doesn't matter how many we add, we're losing just as many and we're just flatlining, right? Which is better than going backwards. But, in this business, anything can happen, right? And so at that Emerald point in my business, I decided I'm going to pretend like the Emerald team doesn't exist. And I'm a brand new ambassador. I'm going to just pretend and I got to go gold. And I'm going to go gold as quick as possible. So, I'm a decent recruiter in the midst of everything else I'm doing in life. So I think Jessica Heffley encouraged us to, add 10 level ones between January and March. And so mentally I heard that and I'm like, I'm going to try to go 10 level ones every single month, which I don't think I hit my goal in January and February. But in March, I recruited the most people that I've ever signed. And I think it was close to 20. That sounds crazy, even in my standards for how many people I can typically get started. But the times in my business where I've really focused in on personal recruitment and just bringing in a whole new group of people and trying to work with them to duplicate, that is when business builders have joined. Now, I don't know if that's just a phenomenon in my own, business and how it's worked out, but I think there is something to it because, who's the guy? What is that? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's like the build a new team in 30 days. Are you remembering what I'm talking about? What is his name? Old network marketing guy, Eric Worre. Yes, thank you. How to recruit 30 people in 30 days or something like that. But that was a really pivotal video for me to listen to. And it's like an hour long. But I remember going back and listening to that a couple different times. And in certain seasons of my business, which this is not every month, every season. This is time where you have your flatline baseline of what you're normally doing with IPA. And then there's some seasons where you're like for a weekend or a week or a month or maybe a quarter where you're gonna be like, you know what? This is going to be go time for my business. I'm basically, if I'm not doing my basic other, top priorities in my life, it's my business. I'm going to book as many phone calls as possible. I'm going to do as many vendors events as possible. I'm going to do as many sip and sees for whoever as possible. I'm going to book my time, fill up my calendar. My goal is growth. I am in charge of momentum. I'm going to, create that. And so, whatever that looks like, whether it's a long period or a short period, it's interesting because he says you can condense your blitz down into even a weekend, but where you basically do nothing else except grow your business in those set aside dedicated hours. And interestingly, for me, that's when business builders have joined, not necessarily from the 10 or 15 or whatever people that I had brought in, but maybe people existing on my team all of a sudden come out of the woodwork and the timing is right and they're ready to work and do a business. So it's just super duper interesting. But it kind of goes along with the number 5, where it talks about momentum is the most powerful change agent. So if we're not feeling satisfied with where we're at, we can be the changers of that. And that totally ties into it's our responsibility, number 6. And having the vision for that and momentum beginning with us. I think so often this is maybe where we get in our heads about how we want someone else to come and grow our business. Like, oh, if only so-and-so, they would be a rock star if they would just catch the vision for it. Or we're kind of subconsciously waiting for someone to come into our business with more influence than us, more leadership skills than us, more whatever vision or, and that can happen sometimes, but I think it's a short-sighted view, and we need to be busy doing the work that we know to be doing while we're waiting on those people, of course, but also being willing to, help the people with their health journeys, to duplicate with the duplicators, even if that means they're going to be silver and that's fine with them, or they're going to be gold and then whatever, leave our team, who knows, right? But every time we do that, we grow our skill set, we grow our perspective, and it all contributes to the greater good of the team building, right? So, get a new team going. When you're excited, people so sense it, and it gives confidence to grow a business. I totally track with that. So momentum begins and ends with us. And then there's a quote that says, "You cannot kindle a fire in any other heart until it's burning within your own." So if you go to page 206, it talks about applying the law of momentum to our lives and how momentum begins inside the leader and spreads from there. Do you feel passionate about the vision? Do you display enthusiasm at all times? Do you work to motivate others even when you don't feel it? You must model the attitude and work ethic that you would like to see in others. That often requires what I call character leadership. And I honestly think that leadership is good character, and that we learn better character, right, by doing these things, by doing this business, and that's a good thing. And it takes good character, right, to do what we do. I had a question for y'all. it kind of ties into number 2. So the whole motivation thing. So did you guys listen to the book study? Jones, Philip Jones, I think that was his name. Okay, go back in the ambassador community page and listen to him. 1, he's super engaging. 2, he has an English accent. And 3, he had a lot of good content to say. But he talked about the word motivation. And I was down flat for 24 hours with some sort of weird virus after Thanksgiving. And so I popped him on and was kind of in and out, halfway listening. And I've, my initial listen through was a little distracted when I was on my way to a basketball game with the kids, and I caught like the tail end of it. But anyways, my disjointed listening in on that call is still really good. But he defines motivation, and I can't remember what he said specifically about the motive part, but the motivation, he talked about how it either the root of the word or just in general, it requires action. And I think often we wait until the feeling of motivation comes versus you take action first and then motivation compounds. And I think it's maybe counterintuitive. And for people that really struggle to not live by their feelings, especially struggle with this, because it's almost like, well, if I don't feel like doing it, their business doesn't get done. And so I think a separator of successful people and either not as successful people or there's people that aren't high achievers or don't achieve as much as they want to in their business. They're just, kind of wishers, is the difference in being led by what we know to do and we just get up and do it versus those that are totally fueled and fed by how things feel. So like if the sun is shining and I got all my laundry done and everyone's obeying and doing what they're supposed to do, then I will work my business versus, maybe I don't feel like it. Maybe I'm laying in bed sick, but I'm still sending messages about Black Friday or Cyber Monday or, whatever the thing is. Like the feeling piece, which I'm not saying don't feel your feelings, but it's kind of like if we worked a normal job where we had to get up and log 12 hours at the hospital shift. It kind of doesn't matter what you feel like. You just get up and go do it, right? But I think the beauty of this business is there's a lot of freedom. And also that can be the hugest downside is there's a lot of freedom. And sometimes we don't hold ourselves accountable for what we say we want because we lack discipline or we are more influenced by our feelings on things versus this is what needs to get done. I'm going to tackle it and then move on with my day, right? So he says the first step toward building motivation is removing demotivating elements within the organization. What in your area of responsibility is causing people to lose their passion and enthusiasm? How can you minimize these factors so that you can motivate your followers? Anything coming up for you guys with that? You can unmute. I mean, we're a small enough group that it's totally fine. Sometimes I get tired of listening to my own voice on all this.
I don't really have anyone sharing right now, so I don't feel like I have anyone to motivate. So it's keeping myself motivated.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm working on.
I think that goes back to leading ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And even though you don't have anyone sharing right now, I mean, you still have a team of happy wholesalers that are being encouraged by your posts. And I don't know if you go live, but seeing things pop up in your stories or listen to your lives. And so you are influencing their thinking, encouraging them to keep consistent with their product usage and things like that. And so I wouldn't discount the whole non-sharer thing right now because you're learning the skills, right? You're growing that character leadership as you practice on the wholesalers,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Heidi, do you have anything popping up? He talked about on number 3 to encourage momentum, to help celebrate your people's accomplishment, and to make it a regular practice to honor people who move the ball forward. So continually praising effort and rewarding accomplishments. The more you reward success, the more people will strive for it. And I think that goes for a lot of things. It could be like motivating our kids to pursue excellence in their stuff. Like, this is just a reminder to me that not always be like harping on like what's not getting done, but also being like, hey, I'm really, really proud of you for doing XYZ well. Keep doing that. But hey, let's talk about this other area also. And I've noticed that when I create rewards, I think Plexus has taught me to create more rewards, like a reward system for my kids, even sometimes it's little things. I know one mom that will randomly put a candy bar, little mini candy bar in her kids' drawers if she goes in randomly and checks and that they're folded and it's like neat and tidy. I've never done that per se, but I do have some other little reward systems for my kids that they absolutely love when I do them. So, sometimes it's just simple things like that. It can even be like Joanna Slavin is really good at this. She does a lot of rewards for her customers, and she has really great retention. And I think it has to do with those little drips that she does. She'll do like Plexus water bottles, little blitz shipment to say thank you to her current wholesale people. She does like a monthly little note card. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I think I've maybe posted it in some threads or on the Momentum Makers. Anyways, I can share it with you. She does a little postcard every single month and just talks about the monthly specials and thanks people for, their consistent ordering and supporting their family business. Super cute. And she has pictures of their family and stuff. I think Angie Ambrosetti also does that. She uses her idea. So, and I love this business is so duplicatable. So when we hear of an idea that we really love, we can easily duplicate it. And sometimes it's just buying some little cute note cards at Walmart. It's a business write-off anyways. And just writing a handwritten thank you note to current customers and thanking them for their consistent orders. I know Carissa does, like, anyone that's ordered from her at least once or 3 times, I can't remember, and beyond, gets a little Christmas card. And some people even gift their people with something small, but just as like a little reward of like, hey, thank you so much for supporting our business. So I thought that was sweet. And then in the workbook, it has like a little work page on page 177 about taking action. So I love how much he references presidents. I think that's interesting. But anyways, Harry Truman once said, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. But then he thought that the statement should be changed to, if you can't make some heat, get out of the kitchen, which is funny. And then he says, as a leader, you need to look for ways for your team to experience wins by accomplishing goals. First, start with the smaller things that you know they can achieve and gradually move them to larger goals that are more difficult. These accomplishments will help build team momentum and allow your team to attempt and accomplish even more. List the wins that your team will go after below. Start with the small goals and gradually move to larger goals. Be sure to celebrate each accomplishment to build morale. So curious if there was anything that you guys wrote down or anything that comes up for you as you're thinking about it now. I think Plexus gives us some rewards and goals to achieve. Like every month they have typically some sort of cash or fun prize to work for, right? And then there's been different times that I've ran different incentives to motivate and encourage people. I remember when my team was mostly wholesalers, I would consistently do different things to try to get people motivated, maybe sharing with a friend, blitzing out little incentives with cash or like a free water bottle or a Plexus t-shirt, Plexus hat. I mean, something that's a write-off, but also hopefully gets them wearing and promoting Plexus more. So is there anything coming up for you, Linda or Heidi?
I just said I would love to see some of the people on my team at least add one, that
Mhm.
would be encouraging, and I would be willing to do some type of little reward for that, or
Mhm.
incentive.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas on that?
Um, I haven't really thought about it.
Well, you could do. Sometimes I've rewarded anyone who takes the action, or does the thing, right? If they add a +1, they get XYZ. Other times I will just do a drawing for everybody that does it. Then I'll pick one person as the winner. So I think both are perfect and valuable. And, if it ends up being an expensive incentive, then that means a lot of people did the action, which is a good thing, a good problem to have, right?
Mhm.
But you might just blitz out a little, hey, I'm doing this end of month +1 incentive. If you, refer your friend or your whatever, your BFF, your mom, your hubby, you're going to get this cute Plexus hat, or you get to pick a cute water bottle, and you might just create a graphic with the water bottle. Just pick some pictures off of Etsy or something, and then and just throw it out there and blitz it out to your level ones. If you have level 2s, you can send it to them also and see what happens. I mean, if worst comes to worst and nothing happens with it, who knows? You might have planted a seed for someone in the future. But
Right,
sometimes it's just getting a creative idea like that and be like, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
right. Yeah,
And sometimes it's like the Blitz holiday special or incentive or something that can totally, change lots. I did a Silver Bells incentive in December of 2015. I was senior Ruby at the time. Or no, sorry, Ruby, planning to rank up to senior Ruby at the end of December. And I did this silly little $33.33 incentive for anybody on my team that went silver. And we had a bunch of people go silver. I don't know what was so magical about it, but that was the last month that I could have earned Silver Stars trip. And I did it with not very many. I mean, statistically, like not that many silvers. I think there was maybe 5 or 6. And went on that Silver Stars trip. And, in a month like December, when a lot of people aren't really working their businesses, that's a good time to try to earn a trip like that, because not everybody is working. But I do feel like any time of year is perfect for fast start. When people hit their warm market and they're pumped, they're excited, it doesn't really matter what time of year it is. Sometimes I feel like for people that have been in this business for a while, they can let other things take priority. And so their business doesn't really grow in November and December during the holiday. But I always feel like, okay, so that means I'm going to tap into what I can control, and I can control my own personal IPA regardless of the outcome, because I know whatever happens now is going to have fruit in 90 days. So in January or February, I will start to see fruit of who I was talking to and what conversations I started in November and December, and then looking for the new people that are excited about joining for the business, because it doesn't matter what time of year it is for them, because they're new, they're posting, and this is a great time of year for people to tap into their business or to tap back into their business, because January is coming and it's good to start that crescendo before January 1st, because you just have that much more momentum behind you to propel forward. Yeah, good stuff. All right, anything else coming up? We are finishing this book study strong, guys. I'm super proud of us for sticking with it, even though it's a small crowd of us. There might be some people that are catching the recording. I know some people are working through the recordings, aren't able to hop on live, and that's totally fine. My goal is to finish this study before Christmas. So the last week, I believe we have to do 3 chapters, but that's okay. We're up for it. So we're going to do Law of Priorities, chapters 17 and 18 next week. The Law of Priorities and the Law of Sacrifice. And I'm actually going to be on a trip. So I'm going to find someone to fill in for me. It might be Justin, or it might be someone that has hosted this in the past. So it'll be good. All righty. Linda, Heidi, so glad you guys popped on. I hope this is value adding. I know I personally love just kind of going back through and talking about the chapter. Like it solidifies it to read it and then to just go back through it and kind of rehash it. There's definitely value in that. So, all righty. Proud of you guys. Thanks for hopping on. We'll chat with you soon. See ya.